Welcome to another installment of Great or Garbage. On today's video, we have the MOOER Yellow Comp. This is a compact optical compressor. It comes at a great price point and it's held in high regard by a lot of people. I was urged to check this out by my good friend of the channel and podcast co-host Troy Nababan, who has not one, but two of these across different pedal boards. Troy mentioned that he really likes this because it's one of the few compressors he's tried in a pedal format that will retain stuff like your strumming dynamics when you're playing. Basically, you can play big open chords on this and it's not sucking out all of the attack. Very straightforward controls. In the middle, you've got the compression knob, then you've got a volume knob and an EQ knob on here. I'm playing a Strat with some Lindy Fralin pickups in it. Let's just have a listen to what it does to my clean sound. Compression can be a tricky effect to demo because a lot of the time you want to use it not to really change the underlying tone, but to change the feel and the dynamic range. And I feel like with basically all the knobs pretty close to noon, this does a really good job. And that EQ control can bring out a little bit of extra brightness in your playing. And if you're doing some finger style or chicken picking style licks in there, cranking up the comp and turning the EQ to about 1 or 2 o'clock kind of makes a Strat sound a little bit more like a telly, which is very desirable, but you can set it up to be quite neutral sounding with that volume control around 10, 11 o'clock, the comp around noon, and again, that EQ around noon. I think that does a really good job of just being a feel enhancer on there. So if you wanted to use this for a kind of funky comp, you'd probably run the comp a little bit higher on there. If you wanted to just make everything a bit easier to play when you're strumming some chords, the settings that I've got at the moment work really well. What I'll do is start with a slightly chimier, crunchier guitar tone again on the Strat, and we'll kick this in just to even everything out. And again, it's not going to change the underlying tone too much at the start, but it will change the overall feel. It basically makes it feel like you're playing with more distortion than you actually have on there. Then I'll crank the volume in the comp and you can use it like a boost into that. I think that's where I really like it, and that beefs that tone up, makes it so much easier to play and really complements the Strat. One last use that I've really enjoyed for this is with the comp a little bit below noon, just using it into a really dirty amp to smooth everything out for some lead playing. I've got the EQ at a neutral setting on here, volumes at around 1 o'clock on there. We get this. Into that, it makes the guitar even easier to play with all that gain, but it's not sucking out all my pick articulation and attack on there. I can see why this pedal is so popular, and the fact that it's so tiny and it's so affordable, I think puts it in the great category. This is probably the best piece of gear I have tried from MOOER. They make a lot of things, from guitars to multi-effects to small stomps like this, but this is pretty fantastic. I think if you were looking for a compressor pedal that's going to work great on guitar, that doesn't have a whole bunch of extra controls you may not need, or doesn't require an understanding of how studio style compression works, this would be a great first place to start. And again, really nice and small, easy to use. It's kind of a win-win. I'd love to hear from all of you. Are you using one of these? How are you using it? And if you're not using one of these, what other compressor are you using? Do you even use a compressor in your rig? Are you like me, where you normally play with lots of gain, so you've got the amp naturally compressing? Or do you use one as like a secret weapon on top of your dirty sound? I'll play you all out with this on here because I'm really enjoying the way this just acts like a cheat code on my playing. If you want to learn more, I'll drop it in the video description. Thank you to everybody who suggested I check this out, and especially to Troy. Go and check out the podcast that we do called The Gear Podcast. You can also check out my Patreon and the music that I make with my band Ragdoll in the video description. Have a good one.